Hello everyone. So I would like to welcome all of you to the first session of Sci-Fi Kids. It's a channel that I actually thought to bring forward for children only. The main purpose of this channel is that we will invite some accomplished scientists in different fields, science fields, and we will invite some children who would like to moderate and host those sessions. So how it works that you can go to the website, and if your kid is interested in any field, you can just submit the form and let me know, and I will bring the scientist who is related or who has worked for many years in that field, and then we can then plan the session. I would like to now introduce our guest here, Dr. Jim Kirkland. He is Utah State paleontologist, and he has been working with the Utah Geological Survey over the past 22 years. And he has promoted Utah's paleontological resources for public good. He also has spent more than 45 years on fossils across the Southwest US and Mexico, authoring and co-authoring more than 90 papers in Mesozoic environments and in other paleontology journals. Also, we have our two hosts here. Both are young children like you. We have Julia Coria. She is the student of grade 8. And we have Emilia Coria, who is the student of grade 3. They both belong to Vancouver, BC. And also, they both are sisters, I must tell you. And they both are actually, they love dinosaurs, and that's how they submitted the request, and I could organize this session. From here, I will give this floor to Julia and Emilia, and if you would like to start the session and go on with the questions. Okay, thank you. Thanks everyone for joining.
How many bones do you find?
Well, most years I find a few hundred bones, and it depends on how many, skeletons, because a skeleton has well over 100 bones in one animal. But when we dig up a whole skeleton, we have a couple hundred bones, and if we find a bunch of skeletons, we get hundreds and hundreds of bones. In fact, the people at work kind of get upset with me because I bring home truckloads of dinosaur bones all the time. Take a lot of room.
What's the place that you find less dinosaur bones?
Where we find the less or the most dinosaurs?
Least.
The least dinosaurs. Well, places where you don't have rocks of Mesozoic age, from the age of dinosaurs. So dinosaurs appear about 220 million years ago and survived for about 155 million years to 65 million years ago when the meteor hit and they went extinct. So if you're in Eastern Canada, an area we call the Canadian Shield, up there's no Mesozoic rocks. So you never can find a dinosaur. A lot of the Eastern US, we don't have dinosaurs. If you go to Ohio or Michigan or Canada, Ontario, but if you go to Nova Scotia, you can find some dinosaurs right on the coast there. The Bay of Fundy has dinosaurs from the very beginning of the age of dinosaurs. And of course, Western Canada has some great dinosaurs, but we have more dinosaurs in Utah. We have over 120 different species that we've named so far from Utah, with dozens and dozens of new ones still being worked on. So we name a few dinosaurs every year.
Do you have to travel all around the world?
Well, most of my work has been in the Northern Hemisphere. So I've worked in Mongolia, I've worked in China, I've done 10 trips to China over the years. I worked through the 90s extensively in Mexico, across northern Mexico with my friends in INAH, the National Institute of Anthropology, and work in Spain quite a bit. I've named 2 dinosaurs from Spain, which was really exciting. It was a great opportunity to They're very important new dinosaurs they brought me over to work on. I'm kind of an expert on armored dinosaurs and raptors because I'm most famous. I got my job because I named Utah Raptor.
How many years of school do you do to become a paleontologist?
Well, it depends on what you're going to do as a paleontologist. There's a lot of different jobs. You can work in a museum curating the specimens. It's kind of like being a librarian, where you figure out where to put things and how to find them so that visiting scientists can see the important fossils. Or you may work in the lab cleaning up the fossils, or you may work in the field collecting them. Or you may do what I do, which is all of it, and name new dinosaurs as I find them and try to put them into context, how they lived, what kind of world they were living in. To do what I do, you have to get a PhD. So you go through high school, then you go get your college degree, then you get a master's and PhD. But for a lot of the jobs, curators, preparators, you really only need about a master's degree. You don't have to have a PhD. And then there are jobs as paleo artists. And some paleo artists, basically just have a 4-year degree, or science communicators, writers. There are people that make their living just writing about dinosaurs, writing stories for the Smithsonian Magazine and National Geographic, and they're good writers. I'm not the best writer in the world. I write a lot, but I work with people when I do popular things that are better writers for writing stuff that you guys would like to read. So there's a lot of different things. But artists, I work with artists all the time. I have hundreds of friends who do art about the extinct world from all over the world. I work with Russian artists and Spanish artists and Mexican artists and Argentinian artists, British, Chinese, all over. There's great artists, and with computers where we can do this, the world is a small place and we work with people everywhere, and it's fun. It really is.
Do you think that I can find a dinosaur bone?
Sure. So you live in Vancouver. I think they might have found a bone out on Vancouver Island. I know you get ammonites out there and mosasaurs, big marine reptiles. They're not really dinosaurs, they're giant lizards that lived in the ocean. But they're cool because they get to 50 feet long. Get to almost 20 meters long. They get to be really big, like whales, and we're pretty ferocious in the ocean, giant sea serpents. But, yeah, you can find fossils. We had a 3-year-old boy find the first dinosaur egg ever found in New Mexico. It was at a rest area, and he went out and walked around and came back to the car and told his mom, "Hey, I got a dinosaur egg." And of course, they didn't believe him. But he kept bugging him and bugging him. They said, "Well, we're going to Albuquerque, so we'll stop at the museum and you can show him your dinosaur egg." And he had found a real dinosaur egg. 3 years old, and he knew it. This pretty amazing story. But like Zuniceratops was discovered by a 6-year-old boy out with his dad. Found that what he thought was a horn on the ground. And they called me. So, it can't be a horn. Maybe it's a spine from an armored dinosaur. And it was a horn. It turned out to be the oldest horned dinosaur ever found in the world. And we named it Zuniceratops for the Zuni Indians, Christophori for Christopher Wolf, who found it. So he got to go on the Tonight Show. Yes, you can find good stuff.
Have you ever found 2 dinosaurs at a time?
Oh yeah, no, I've worked on sites where there are hundreds of dinosaurs. I have found, Mongolia, and working in Spain, I've walked in places where there are dinosaur heads just sitting on the ground, just sitting there to pick up and wrap up carefully and bring back to the laboratory. But the work we've been doing in New Mexico, we have rivers, old ancient Jurassic rivers that go for a kilometer, and there's just stacked with skeletons for the whole kilometer. probably a couple of these sites may be the biggest dinosaur bone beds in the world.
What's one of your favorite dinosaurs or prehistoric creature?
My favorite is Gastonia. I like 𝐒𝐿𝐴canthus. It's an ankylosaur, but it's a special kind of the 𝐒𝐿𝐴canthine that have a shield of fused armor like a turtle shell over their hips and big spines. In fact, this is actually a spine from my first dinosaur I ever discovered, 𝐼𝐻𝐵, which is the ancestor of Gastonia. But you can see this spine, and if you look at it and get the light right, you see there's little grooves and things all over it. That's where blood vessels were on the surface because there was horn over this. So this is a bone, we call it osteoderm, and then the horn went on top of it. So all the blood vessels are keeping the tissue alive that grew the horn that was on top of this thing. And you see the groove right there. The next one would be here. So when they turned, it gave them a little room so the horns wouldn't get in the way of each other. But that's a spine of my first dinosaur, 𝐼𝐻𝐵.
That's really cool. What is the first fossil that you found? Well, I think.
Well, that's not the first fossil I found. First fossil I found were fossil plants. When I grew up in Massachusetts, in New England, way on the East Coast of the United States, which isn't a very great place for dinosaurs, though they do have a little meat-eating dinosaur as their state dinosaur in Massachusetts, Podokesaurus. But basically, I had an earth science teacher in high school that knew I really liked fossils, and he took me to a site in Rhode Island, right on the border of Massachusetts, and I could look for Carboniferous or Pennsylvanian age plants. So early giant club mosses, giant horsetails, and things like that. So those are the very first fossils I found. But I was in high school before I ever found a fossil. If you live out in the West or Nova Scotia, if you go to Vancouver Island, I know there's a lot of fossils around there that you could just walk along and find one. You can find them in your driveway sometimes if you get a gravel driveway.
What made you want to be a paleontologist?
Well, when I was 5 years old, my dad came home from a business trip with a set of toy dinosaurs. And basically within days, I knew I wanted to study these crazy looking animals for the rest of my life. And growing up, I'd be walking down the street and neighbors would say, "Oh, ask him about dinosaurs." But I was the kid that was just, you couldn't shut me up when it came to dinosaurs. I loved them so much. And I'm working now as a state paleontologist in Utah. So you can do something that you love as a kid and stick to it and do it as an adult. You know, some say, "Oh, you're just a kid, you don't know what you're doing." Yeah. Oh no, you can do what you want to do. You got to follow your heart.
Other than dinosaurs, what else do paleontologists study?
Well, we study all life. We study plants, we study the plankton in the oceans, we study pollen. I'm on a Zoom call tomorrow talking about pollen and wood debris from samples that we get during the age of dinosaurs, because we're trying to understand what the world was like with all the different plants and trees. What kind of trees were these animals eating? You know, to figure that out, you got to know what plants were there. So we look at pollen, because pollen fossilizes really good, and it can tell you a whole bunch about different plants. You can have a sample that's just like this big, and it could have thousands of pollen grains in it that tell you all about the plants that were living in that environment. But I study fossil fish. I've named a number of fish. I've named fossil sharks and sawfish. I've named fossil snails. I've named clams. I named a turtle a few years back. I named a mammal once. I normally tell people I don't do fur balls, but I did discover and name a very exciting mammal that shows that we could cross the Atlantic Ocean and go to Africa without having to swim an ocean back at about 120 million years ago. And that was pretty neat because related fossils found in Africa, Spain, and in Madagascar.
Where do paleontologists work?
Well, we work all over the world. In fact, there are paleontologists that work in places where there are no fossils, like up on the Canadian Shield that, work at universities, but we go on expeditions. So, it doesn't matter where you work, but you want to work where there's a good base of scientists to interact with, because none of us can do it all by ourselves. The thing I like about paleontology the most is that you need to collaborate with other people that know about things that you don't know about. I always joke with people, I always work with people that are smarter than me because it makes me look good. But this is what you do. You work with other people because we're all different. We all know things that other people don't know. But when we all get together and share our knowledge and our love for what we do, we come up with really exciting things.
Can I say it? How can a paleontologist know the color of dinosaurs?
Well, for most of them, we really don't know. We need to look at modern animals and say, well, if this animal lived in the forest, it might be camouflaged. If this animal, say, was poisonous, dinosaurs probably aren't poisonous, but if it was poisonous, it might be bright colored to warn you, don't mess with me, because I can bite you and make you sick. But we now have feathered dinosaurs from China, from several different sites. And by studying the feathers microscopically, we can look at the pattern of the units of keratin, the stuff that makes the feathers up. And we can tell that some of the feathers would be dark black, iridescent. Some feathers are red, some are white, by the pattern of these little structural pieces of the feathers. It's kind of why, like, the amorphous butterflies look brilliant blue, and they're not blue, it's just the way the light reflects off their wings that make them look blue. But there are colors, green, blue, it's tougher to get, but sometimes we can find traces of copper in the feathers that suggests that there was pigments that would give them those colors. So there's a few dinosaurs where we really do, the small feathered dinosaurs, but we know the color patterns. And that's neat. And who knows, maybe we'll discover new things. We discover new ways to look at this stuff all the time.
How do you know the scientific words for the dinosaurs?
Well, I started learning them when I was a kid. So I got the marked set of toy dinosaurs. So I had Allosaurus, Brontosaurus, Trachodon, Tyrannosaurus Rex, Stegosaurus, Triceratops. I learned all those. But what was funny is I read books, but I never heard anybody that knew about paleontology speak until I was in college. And I took a dinosaur class with my hero, 𝐒𝐏𝐄𝐬𝐜𝐄𝐑. He used to run the American Museum of Natural History. And every time I opened my mouth, he would correct me because I was pronouncing the names wrong. So sometimes it's tricky to understand, pronunciation on these things. And also, if you talk to friends in Europe, in the US, they'll pronounce things differently. My British colleagues and my American colleagues pronounce a number of names differently. The dome-headed dinosaurs, they call them 𝐒𝐏𝐄𝐬𝐜𝐑𝐿. In the US, we call them 𝐒𝐏𝐶�cephalosaurs. It's just a different way we pronounce them in the different countries.
Yeah. Have you ever found any insects inside of amber?
Well, yeah, I do. I've got amber that has insects in it. I have a good friend, Rene Hernandez, down in Mexico City, and he's always bringing me pieces of amber up when he comes to visit with insects in it. But we recently found in a plant locality in the Jurassic, in a ginkgo marsh forest, a giant water bug that's like that long. And giant water bugs very much like this are still alive today. I caught one when I was a kid and put it in my fish tank, and it killed all my goldfish. So you don't do that. But these things would be eating fish and frogs, and things like that. So this is a very big bug. But we named that a while ago, where we found a young woman in Argentina who was an expert on insects, joined us and made us look better because she knew about insects. So you always want to work with people that are smarter than you.
How do people decide what to name a dinosaur?
Well, we can do it various ways. I've named dinosaurs for people. I named the oldest ornithomimid or ostrich mimic dinosaur in the world, 𝐒𝐏𝐄𝐬𝐜𝐃𝐞𝐬𝐜𝐫, for my hero, Edwin H. Colbert, wrote all the books when I was a kid. You name them relative to states, Utah raptor, or raptor. I was using the thief ending raptor and adding to it Utah since it was from Utah. And then I named the species Ostrom maysi, which for John Ostrom at Yale, who's an expert on them, and my old boss, Chris Bays, for giving me the opportunity to discover the animal. But we'll name things. Mirasaurus was named from Mira, who was the first scientist from Spain to ever come to Utah during the early expeditions into the West. So he was a cartographer, mapper, geologist on the Dominguez expeditions. So I figured he deserved a dinosaur, and I was working on it with my colleagues from Spain, who actually really, once again, made me look good because they knew things about some Spanish dinosaurs that this animal was related to that made the paper a much more important paper.
Have you ever found something that you thought was a dinosaur, then you found out it wasn't a dinosaur?
Yeah, they're foolers all over. And that's one of my big jobs is people send us pictures of stuff all the time. Every day I get pictures. And I always say, yeah, that's how my job is to burst bubbles. But once in a while, people find something that's really important and real. And yeah, I've picked up stuff, brought them home, and just said, that's really not a fossil. That's just a interesting mineral deposit or something of that sort. But I'm pretty good at it. I've been doing it a long time. So that doesn't happen very often anymore.
Do most dinosaur names mean something about them?
Yeah, or something to commemorate, like the place they're from, like Utah raptor. Some Falcarius, which is the most primitive and oldest known therizinosaur that we named a while back. That's named for a sickle. It's a Latin word, and it was actually also used for a plant, but it's a sickle-like leaf. They used to use sickles to cut the wheat. I don't know if you've seen these. We don't use them much anymore, but the claws on these guys had big claws. Were kind of like sickles. So I named the thing Falcarius for the sickle-shaped claws that it had. Another animal, another therizinosaur I named, Nothronicus, basically means sloth claw, because it's a lot like the giant ground sloths. These guys were meat-eating dinosaurs that became plant eaters. Walk around like Godzilla, very much upright, which is very strange for a meat-eating dinosaur that doesn't eat meat anymore.
Okay.
Did you ever find something like peeking out and then you found out it was not a bone, it was something else buried?
Oh yeah, that's the way we find sites. We call it prospecting. And you first got to figure out what age rocks you're in, because you don't want to work where there's rocks that wouldn't have dinosaurs, so they didn't exist. And then you also want to be in the right environment, which would be rocks deposited on land. And generally, you don't want to work on rocks that are like big boulders, because that'll crunch the bones up. So you look for mud and rivers, things where dinosaurs might be buried. And you walk and you walk, and you bend over and pick up little chips, because as they come onto the surface, they break up. And you pick up hundreds of little pieces of stuff and say, nope, throw it back down. So you do that every 100 times, then you pick up one, and go, aha, two, and then you look for more. But you find lots of foolers when you're out prospecting. Spend a lot of time bent over. Or for me, I drop down and I'm crawling around looking for little bones. because that's, the bones break up. You usually don't find giant bones laying on the ground. Those have been pretty much all collected.
This is my last one.
Your last one. Then you'll know everything in my job.
Is it hard to find dinosaur eggs?
Yeah, I found eggs. I found eggs in Mongolia. We find eggs in Utah. In fact, we had eggs, shell fragments in almost every rock layer through the whole sequence in Utah for the history of dinosaurs. But recently, one of my colleagues, Lindsay Zano from the North Carolina Museum of Natural History in Raleigh, Lindsay's crew found nests of a giant oviraptor, which the name means egg thief, but they were actually good mother dinosaurs because they were found first sitting on nests. And they thought they were stealing the eggs, but they were their own eggs. They were protecting their eggs. But this thing is giant. The eggs are as big as footballs. So they're about a foot long. They used to think they were tyrannosaur eggs, but they go to this giant oviraptor. In China, they call it gigantoraptor. It's about 30 feet long or so, and it doesn't have any teeth. It's got a crust on its head like a cassowary. But these guys, we have them in Utah as well. It's not gigantoraptor, it's a new kind. And my friends in Chicago at the Field Museum are working on describing those animals. And Lindsay found the nests that go with them. So it's pretty exciting. Big nests.
Okay, we can actually see in our audience also, Clara is actually showing us her dinosaur, and I don't know which dinosaur is this. Probably.
That looks like Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Ah, okay.
And this is a Tyrannosaurus Rex tooth.
You see, Clara, this is the same that you are
Hey, here's
holding,
one of its
the same
teeth
dinosaur.
from a real one. You see how big it is.
You see how big it is?
But what's interesting is this is a tooth from Giganotosaurus from Argentina. It's supposed to be the biggest of all the meat-eating dinosaurs. But T-Rex has bigger teeth. And look how chunky it is.
Yeah.
More of a knife for Giganotosaurus. This guy is cutting steaks off for barbecue. So it's a good cutting tooth. This one is for breaking through bones. T-Rex was just biting through whatever it bit because he couldn't grab it and hold it with his hands and figure out where to get a good bite. So it just had to bite whatever was in front of it. And these massive teeth would break through the horns and skulls of things like Triceratops or the armor of ankylosaurs. It's pretty neat, but very different. They had a different lifestyle, and we can tell from the teeth.
Okay, she had another dinosaur. Clara, you were holding a yellow one also, right? I saw two dinosaurs.
I saw the T-Rex.
Oh, the yellow.
Oh, I think that's another T-Rex. Maybe that's Albertosaurus.
Okay.
Smaller T-Rex relative.
Wow, cool. Okay. So we have actually some questions from audience too. I will take 2-3 questions, Julia and Emilia, and then we will continue with more questions that you have, okay? So the first question actually came from Matthew. Matthew, would you like to ask your question yourself, or would you like me to do that? Let me see where Matthew is. Okay, I think I can do it.
So Mateo is not here,
Okay.
but he wanted me to ask on his behalf.
Okay, so his question is that he wanted to know if dinosaurs would be able to see the glass, since birds cannot see the glass.
Yeah, they may or may not. I mean, different dinosaurs had different qualities of eyesight. So like Tyrannosaurus or Troodonts too had eyes that looked forward and they had stereoscopic vision. And that makes it easier to see depth and things. And birds, most birds have their eyes on the sides of their head, so they don't have this depth perception. But these animals also see in full color, because we know that all animals, we're one of the few groups, mammals, that lost color vision. It's not like dogs and deer and stuff are primitive and don't have, can't see in color, but they actually lost it. So dinosaurs would have better color vision than us. They'd have, like birds, polychromatic color vision. So they could see into the infrared and see more divisions of color than we could see. So their world was probably pretty different. Birds can do that too, but glass is tricky. I mean, there's a few adult humans that have walked into windows in their life. It happens to the best of us. Birds are moving real fast when they hit a window. They think they're going to shoot through the branches of something, so they don't pick up on it. If you're running, you know, I've seen kids run into windows. Fortunately, they just bounce off for the most part.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. One question is from Kayan. Kayan, am I pronouncing your name correctly? Would you like to ask your question yourself, or should I go ahead? I think he's muted. So his question is, how do you pronounce, actually I cannot pronounce it. How do you pronounce Parasaurolophus? Parasaurolophus. Okay.
Parasaurolophus and Prosaurolophus and Saurolophus. There's a whole bunch of these guys.
Yeah. Even
But it's Saurolophus is the main part, so Parasaurolophus.
Okay.
That's how you pronounce it. But I had to hear people say it correctly before I could say it. You know, because you look at the word and go, okay, how do you pull this all together? You know, where's the accent?
Okay, and we have Halima. Halima wanted to ask a question. Halima, would you please unmute yourself and ask the question? I will put spotlight on you.
Hi.
Let me unmute you. Okay. You have to unmute yourself, Halima. Yeah, now you can ask.
My name is Halima. Were there dinosaurs in the ocean?
No, well, Spinosaurus probably lived on the shore. This is something we debate a lot now. I tend to think it fed like a giant water bird, like a heron or a crane, and would shoot its head in to grab big fish. Other people have said that it swims. It's got a deep tail, but then it's got this giant sail on its back, which doesn't make a lot of sense if you're trying to swim underwater, and the way its head's constructed. But there are animals that are like dinosaurs and being extinct, marine reptiles like plesiosaurs and mosasaurs and ichthyosaurs that lived in the oceans and filled that role. But dinosaurs really never got to live in the ocean much. The only relatives, crocodiles, had some that moved into the ocean and developed tail fins and the whole bit. But dinosaurs really didn't get to be ocean dwellers.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Halima. Okay, so the next question is actually from Eliana. Eliana, would you like to ask your question yourself? Or
sure. Just wanted to know if there's been a dinosaur named after Dr. Kirkland.
No, I've got it. I've got ostracods, little microfossils. I've got a mammal named after me. I got I think I got a lungfish, but no dinosaurs. Hopefully someone will do that. I know people that don't think you should name a dinosaur for someone who's still alive. I've named dinosaurs after many people that are still alive, because like, what are they going to care if they're not alive? You know, so I like to name dinosaurs after living people. But I have named them after people that are no longer with us that do deserve it. You know, that's just part of the fun. 𝐆𝐔𝐄𝐬𝐜𝐄𝐑𝐿, I named for Jeff Eaton, 𝐆𝐔𝐄𝐬𝐜𝐒𝐑𝐿, and Jeff opened up the grand staircase for paleontology with me back in the 80s. And he really deserved to have a grand staircase, Escalante National Monument dinosaur name for him.
Thank you. Actually, that was a very nice question. Any dinosaur after your name, you know?
You don't name them after
Interesting.
yourself. That's where it goes.
Yeah. So actually, there is one more. There are actually so many questions coming. The next question is from Jordan. Jordan, would you like to unmute yourself and ask the question?
Hi, Jordan.
Oh, he's too shy.
Okay, so do you want me to read the question for him?
Yes, please.
Okay, his question is, would like to know what the plates on the back of stegosaurs are for?
Well, the early stegosaurs, they were really kind of like spines. And it's only at the end, the last stegosaurs, that they become big flat plates. And people have thought that they had a sharp edge on them, you know, so they could still cut you if you, try to reach them over the back. Other people think, and they might have done more than one thing with these, that they used them to thermoregulate, that there are lots of blood vessels in them, as I showed you with the spine of Mimorpelta. You get lots of blood vessels in armor bones, and then you put the horn over it. So they might have been able to use it to help shed heat. We don't know for sure, and they might have used them for more than one thing, display, showing off to the girls. Hey. But we see both males and females seem to have pretty similar plates, as far as we can tell. We still don't really know how to tell a male and a female dinosaur apart yet very well. But they might have been showing off. It might have been defensive. It might be for, you know, getting warm or cool, or it could have been all of them. The spikes, though, were for protection on the tail. We do know what those are for.
Okay, thanks, Jordan, and thanks, Jim, for this. Okay, let me see. Bailey wants to ask a question, right? I saw this in the chat box. Would you like to unmute yourself, Mila? It's from Mila. Bailey, this is Bailey. Would you like to unmute yourself and ask the question? Actually, you are muted.
So tap your microphone.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Now we can hear you.
So Bailey was the dog that was on my lap. He's a girl and she's really silly.
They're working our taxonomy here.
Yeah, okay, so have you any question, Mila? No?
So is there a dinosaur that bone that you can find in your yard?
Well, it depends where your yard is. If your yard's in Quebec, you're not going to find a dinosaur there at all because they don't have any dinosaurs in Quebec. But if you live in Calgary, Alberta, yeah, you can find a dinosaur in your backyard. I can't find one here in Salt Lake City. I can find a mammoth here in my backyard, or a ground sloth, or even a saber-toothed tiger. But I won't find a dinosaur here because the rocks aren't the right age. So I have to go down to the Colorado Plateau where we have all our geologic parks, arches, canyon lands. Those are the places where we find dinosaurs.
Okay, thanks, Mila. I will just mute you. And okay, so another question is from Clara, actually. Clara, would you like to ask your question yourself? Yeah.
Howdy.
He's just showing the stegosaurus.
Oh yeah, that's Stegosaurus for sure. Yeah, that was my wife's favorite dinosaur.
No, if
In
you
fact, we got married in front of a Stegosaurus.
Oh.
if you want to make the question, it's okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and Kyan has one more question. He said, I have to ask another question. Okay, would you like to unmute yourself? Where are you here? Okay, would you like to share your video or it's not possible?
Can you find it
frustrating when dinosaurs are portrayed inaccurately in movies or shows?
Yes. I mean, I've worked on like lots of documentaries. I used to be one of the go-to guys for Discovery Channel for years when they actually did science at Discovery instead of just buying their shows. But they had a great studio up in Montreal that I used to fly up to and work with the animators all the time. It was fun. But yeah, Jurassic Park, the Disney movie. Disney movie called me and asked me some questions. And after they talked to me for a while, they said, "No, we really don't want to know what's going on." But you didn't put kangaroos in Lion King.
Okay, I don't see any more questions from audience. So Emilia and Julia, would you have more questions from people who registered, right?
Yeah, I'll just
Would you like to ask those questions? I will just mute myself and
you ask one.
Is it true that that Brachiosaurus weighed as much as 7 elephants?
Or 10 elephants even. I mean, Brachiosaurus is pretty big, but even bigger was Argentinosaurus. And it's probably something like 14 elephants. And Patagonosaurus, some of these giant titanosaurs from Argentina and Utah. We have a titanosaur here that's also huge. I mean, a T-Rex would only come up to its hip. So, you know, T-Rex, he wasn't even afraid of T-Rex. They lived together, find them in the same beds. He was so big, if T-Rex tried to bug him, he just step on him, squish him. That's one way to protect yourself, is be very big.
Are there any movies and TV shows that you would recommend for about dinosaurs?
Yeah, well, you know, when dinosaurs roamed North America, which I've worked on quite a bit, it's good. Dinosaur World. There's a lot of good shows. I mean, nothing's perfect. In fact, when I used to work for Discovery Channel, when we did when dinosaurs roamed North America, we had Phil Curry, me, Jack Horner, Karen Chin, a couple other people as well. And we all had, Tom Holtz, we all had to agree on at least 2 of us. And just to get 2 of us to agree on something they wanted to put in the show was sometimes difficult. Because the filmmakers want to go to the edge all the time. You know, we're saying, well, we don't know this. We don't know this. And as scientists, we try to be more careful because we don't want you to think things are true that we don't know are true. You know, and the one thing about paleontology, I think, that's really important for kids is help teach kids how to figure things out, how to problem solve. Because that's what I do all the time, is try to take little bits of information like Sherlock Holmes and put them together to solve the mystery. And learning to think like that is really important in life. And it's fun. It's solving puzzles. And that's a lot of fun.
Why do stegosaurus have plates on their backs, and why are they called plates?
Well, they're called plates because the stegosaurus, they're big and broad. I wish I had one here with me. I mean, some are 3 feet across, real big stegosaurus. And they're big, flat structures that came up off of their back. But as I said, early stegosaurs, they're more like spines, rows of spines down their back. And it's only in Stegosaurus and Warhosaurus that they became plate-like. And probably because they started using it for some different reasons. And we're still trying to figure that out. I mean, it's stuff that maybe you'll be the one that figures it out, because there's lots to do. We haven't done it all. You know, we discover new dinosaurs every couple weeks. There's a new dinosaur being named. And that's really exciting. In fact, they may have a whole new family tree for dinosaurs. They're radically different from what we had all my life growing up. And I'm starting to believe the new tree might be right. And that's really cool because when you learn things that are new, that change your view of the world, what we call a eureka moment. And you just go, this is new, a new discovery. It's exciting and fun.
How did dinosaurs keep their eggs warm, especially when they were giant?
Well, a lot of these guys were probably burying their eggs in vegetation. So they would make a nest. Sauropods, the big guys, the big long-necked dinosaurs, they seem to make these big troughs with their hind feet. So they kind of pull their hind foot back. So you have these big arcing deep trenches that they'd lay their eggs in. And their eggs are about as big as a soccer ball, big round eggs. So they lay these, and I figured they just kind of lay the eggs, they bounce off their lower leg and into these troughs. So you get these big arcuate nests. Then they probably push vegetation over them because an animal like that can't sit on its eggs. In the Gobi Desert, a lot of the feathered dinosaurs that we've actually found on nests, they have wings, even though they couldn't fly, and they were shading the eggs from the hot sun in the desert because the Gobi was like the Sahara Desert when they were living there. It was a hot place, and keeping your eggs cool was probably a bigger chore than to keep them warm.
Can dinosaurs come back to life?
Well, there's dinosaurs all around us. Dinosaurs are one of the most successful groups of animals on Earth today. And you know who they are.
Birds.
Yeah, birds. Birds are dinosaurs, like bats are mammals. I mean, birds are just flying dinosaurs. Now that we know that, birds are dinosaurs. Dinosaurs aren't birds, but birds are dinosaurs. They're a group of flying dinosaurs. And there's more kinds of birds than there are mammals. So in some ways, you can say birds are more successful than mammals. That this is the age of birds. Or still the age of dinosaurs.
Is a chicken a type of dinosaur?
It is. It's a galliform, which is the chicken group of birds, and they are a subdivision of dinosaurs. Because when we look at the tree of life, the branches, birds are a branch off the giant dinosaur part of the tree, and mammals are off the synapsid part of the tree. Very different big branches, two major branches of land-living animals. And birds are the surviving members of sauropsids, or reptile-like animals. Alligators, lizards, all of those animals are related, give rise to things like dinosaurs, but dinosaurs are a specialized group, and then birds are a specialized group of dinosaurs. So now when we classify animals, we name the branches as you go up the tree of life.
Do dinosaur and bird feathers look the same or different?
Well, some of them, there's dinosaurs that have really primitive feathers that are not much more than frayed scales, that would have been somewhat decorative. Then there's some that had feathers that were really just basically just a fiber coming out. Others where you had a whole bunch of fibers coming out of a spot, kind of like down on a newborn chick. But there are dinosaurs, Utahraptor, and here's what the claw of Utahraptor was like, it's good for shaving and all kinds of purposes. But this animal's ancestors could fly. This is some of the new things we now know, that dinosaurs developed flight 3 different times. And one group survived till today, the birds. But there are flying dinosaurs that aren't on the bird line directly.
How did dinosaurs keep their eggs warm?
We already asked that one.
Oh.
Yeah, I basically cover them with plants. The heat of decaying plants would keep them warm or keep them cool.
Are there all questions, Emilia, Julia?
I think there's one more.
One more? Okay.
Yeah.
What can parents do to make science exciting to their children?
Basically, spend time with you looking at science stuff. You know, like I always tell kids, if you're interested in science, keep a naturalist notebook, like a diary, that you draw pictures of what you see, write notes about observations, things you know seen, things that you're thinking about. You know, just like a diary. You know, things that you like and dislike. But that's how people like Darwin started, by just taking notes, writing. And when you draw a picture of something, say you see a couple different flowers, and you draw a picture of the flower, and then you draw a picture of the other kind of flower and say, oh, this is how they differ. That makes it sink into your brain. You know, this is one of the things when you study in school, why we take notes. The act of writing and drawing helps you learn, strengthens it into your memory a lot more. And it's fun to draw, you know, because you're looking at the world around you and distilling it, you know. So, you know, when you're, you know, the early astronomers like Galileo, Lowell, you know, looking at Mars, they drew pictures of the planets they were seeing through their telescopes. And that all is part of how we got to be where we are today with our knowledge, is drawing pictures, writing things down. Sometimes you write something down, think, oh, I think I discovered something new. And then later you find, oh, nope, that's wrong. But it's that act of doing it, learning, you know, being a at-home detective, trying to figure out how things work. All that stuff is fun. Just think of it as puzzles. And there's nothing you learn in school that isn't important. You know, people, oh, I don't need to write, I don't need to do math. Oh, yes, you do. Everything you learn from everybody is important. And one of the most important things is writing. You know, you just want to write. You know, and I'm not a good writer. I'm dyslexic. I reverse things. I have a learning disability. But my learning disability happens to relate to things where I can see shapes better and learn forms better than most people. I'm more of a geometric thinker than an algebraic thinker, you know, but different people think different ways, but all of us together make a stronger whole. You know, so just because you have a friend that might not look at things the same way you do, it doesn't mean the way they look at something isn't important and valid too. You know, because we all see things a little differently from each other. That's part of what makes humanity just so neat. That's all our differences coming together to make a stronger whole.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Jim. Or actually, I was just curious about that claw, and I would like to show that claw again to everyone. And let me move to the gallery view. And here, if
here's the one from the movie.
See, this is the claw.
That's the one from the movie Jurassic Park, and this is Utahraptor.
Utahraptor, you see?
And it's a much sharper, nastier claw than the one from the movie.
You see?
Utahraptor is better than Spielberg's raptor.
Yeah. If you see your nail is so small, you see? And
yeah.
The dino's nail, it's so big. It's like this.
Well, it's not all that big. Here's Allosaurus, our state fossil. Wow. And this is what we find is the bone.
Look at
and
this.
The bone, everybody here has got 20 of these. They're called unguals. The last bones in your fingers and toes underneath your claws are the ungual. And the claw doesn't preserve much because it's organic. But when we reconstruct it by looking at modern animals, the present is the key to the past. Looking at the world around you, this is how we interpret it. And it's not all that different.
Yeah.
So it fits on it tight, and the big groove is from the main blood vessels.
Yeah.
They go down.
Oh, so nice to see. I mean, mine are very small. So
yeah, mine are too.
Yeah.
I always like to tell kids, this is your new science word. You can amaze
yes.
me. Yeah, you want to see my unguals? I got 20 of them. How many you got?
Yeah.
And looking at dinosaur brains is fun. This
wow.
is one of the smartest dinosaurs, but that's the brain of the dinosaur impressed on the top of its skull. That's about as big as a cat's brain. And if it's like a bird, see it there? See the big lobes?
Yeah.
Brain, that's where it smells, olfactory bulb with a sense of smell above its nose. But looking at the size of that brain, if they're like birds, parrots and ravens, you know, the corvid type birds, the neurons in birds are much denser than mammals. That's why you can have a parrot that's as smart as a 4-year-old, or a raven as smart as a 4-year-old with a brain that's only this big, because they just pack a lot more into that brain. And if dinosaurs were doing the same thing, this would have been a fairly intelligent animal for the late Cretaceous. And we don't know. We need to study alligators. You know, how much neuron packing did they do in an alligator brain? Because that's the outgroup. You know, we have birds and we have alligators. So knowing this will help us figure out what's going on in the middle.
Yeah, that's very strange. So, all of you, all kids who are here, do you have any question for Dr. Jim, right? Have you any question for Dr. Jim for dinosaurs? Okay, can anyone of you tell me which type of the dinosaur you know? Jordan, would you like to tell me which type of the dinosaur you know? You are muted. Okay, let's ask someone else.
Yeah, some favorite
Clara.
dinosaurs.
Yeah. So
everybody's favorite's T-Rex. That's not fair.
Okay.
I like armored dinosaurs.
So Halima, would you like to go first? Would you like to tell me which type of the dinosaur you know?
Pterodactyl and a T-Rex.
Okay.
Yeah, everyone likes T-Rex. But don't you like ankylosaurs with their big tail clubs? You know, they're pretty cool.
Yeah.
I've always wanted a pet ankylosaur.
Yeah. And Myla, you? Myla, you? You like, which dinosaur you like?
I like the Stegosaurus.
Stegosaurus are pretty cool.
It's a good
one of my colleagues, Susie Maidment at the Natural History Museum of London, she's a stegosaur expert. She likes stegosaurs a lot. But there's only about 12 kinds of stegosaurs. There aren't that many kinds. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
We have 70 kinds of ankylosaurs, which is interesting. Don't know why.
Aryan, would you like to tell us which type of the dinosaur you like? And would you like to unmute yourself and show the video if you are there? Aryan and Adi? Okay, they are not here. So Clara, would you like to tell which dinosaur you like?
T-Rex.
T-Rex. Who else do you like?
What else? ¿Qué otro te gusta, mamá?
Triceratops.
Ah, yeah, Triceratops. They're cool.
That's nice. And Emilia is really, really fond of dinosaurs, actually. Emilia, which dinosaurs you like? That's why she is here, actually. She put the request that she would like to have a dinosaur session. So would you like to tell which dinosaurs you like?
Zool.
You like Zool, huh? Do you know Victoria Arbor? She's in Saskatoon at the museum there. She's the one that named Zool. So she's not too far away, her museum, but she's an expert on the tail-clubbed ankylosaurs. I've known Victoria for many years. That's a neat animal, Zool. I mean, it's so well preserved. You see all the armor on the back, just like it was alive. Or boreal pelta too in Alberta. That's another one, that big armored dinosaur mummy, that we really know a lot about because they're so well preserved. Pretty neat.
You like a lot of them.
There's a lot. Boy, we have 120 something in Utah alone. 1 in 10 of all the known dinosaurs occur in Utah.
That's really good to know. Maybe, Emilia, you can visit Saskatoon, you know, that museum, right? Next time when you go. Kine has his hand raised. Would you like to unmute yourself and show us your video and ask the question? Kine, I think actually he raised the hand and then he's not here.
My favorite dinosaur is Carcharodontosaurus.
Yeah, Carcharodontosaurus is a neat animal. It's a lot like Giganotosaurus. They're related animals to this. And one of the things about Carcharodontosaurus, it's also very big. His teeth are very much like this, but there are stronger folds in the tooth. And you kind of make out the folds on this. They have in Carcharodontosaurus, there's stronger folds in the tooth. Really, you can tell a tooth of a Carcharodontosaurus pretty nicely. Oh, I can show that up. That's out of focus. At the limits of what we can do in Zoom. But yeah, Carcharodontosaurus tooth would be very much like that.
Okay.
They could take out a Spinosaurus. Spinosaurus would not beat a Carcharodontosaurus or a T-Rex. Ate fish.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Julia, Emilia, you have any more questions?
No.
No?
Oh.
Julia also, Emilia also has lots of collection of dinosaurs, right?
Yeah, dinosaur stuffies and models.
And models and books, right?
Yeah, you have a field guide.
And my shirt.
Oh, I didn't shirt. Oh, I didn't notice your shirt. Let me put a spotlight on you. And let's see your shirt.
Back it up a little higher, yeah.
Wow.
Nice.
That's special.
I've got a lot of dinosaur T-shirts.
Yeah.
Box and
Oh yeah, I have.
but you have 2 field guides of dinosaurs.
Oh, that's very nice. Okay.
You know, I've been doing this for many, many years. I mean, I'm an old guy. And whenever I find a new bone, it's just as exciting as the first bone I ever found. It never gets old. You never know when you're making a big discovery. It's so much fun to make discoveries.
Okay, so I think we can end the session now. And all the kids who are present today here, if you would like to have another session on some different topic on dinosaurs still, just let me know and write me on LinkedIn or send me on the contact form and I will definitely arrange it. And I would like to say thanks to Dr. 𝐒𝐿𝐃𝐿𝐄𝐻 for saying yes for this session. I am so grateful because it was so informative and I hope that most of the children who attended today, they learned a lot. And it was really, really fun. And especially, I will never ever forget that claw, that big claw. I think that's the thing that I'm going to take away for myself, actually.
There are bigger claws.
Bigger claws.
Therizinosaurus has a 3-foot-long bone.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Claw.
Longer than
Bigger
me.
with the claw.
Yeah, they are longer than me. And I would like to say thanks to Emilia and Julia who brought this program for you today here. They prepared all the questions and they submitted that request form, and basically they are the main moderators and organizers of this session. So a big thanks to both of you. It was a wonderful job and you both did a really, really good moderating thing here. And I think it's your first time being a moderator, right?
Yeah.
Thank
you.
Excellent.
That's really good job. And with that note, I think I would say bye to all of you. I will close this session and have a wonderful day, wonderful evening, wonderful night, wherever you are. Take care of yourself. And next time we will come with another session and hope to see you all there. Okay, and I can see now.
See you guys.
Oh, I can see actually Bailey behind the scenes. So
see you at the quarry.
Okay, take care, everyone. Bye.
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 Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.